Second recording. Let's do some hints here. Hints. So there are a bunch of different versions, so yours may might not look exactly like this. But okay, which equation models the function? Well, you can use translation rules, which I know we did a Kahoot on that. Because any of these, couldn't you also take multiple choice answers and say like plug coordinates in and see which coordinates actually match that graph? Okay, so there's a couple of translation rules. You can play after multiple choice and see if I plug in something for x, what do I get for y? Does that actually match that graph? And one of these works, and only one. Number two, we got revenue as a function of ticket price. That looks quadratic. So like x squared plus something x, right? And if you want to maximize revenue, and I told you exactly how to do it in this hint right here in parentheses, it's the vertex of a parabola. Because if you graph this, this turns out to be an upside down parabola. I mean, it's the negative something price squared, right? So the vertex would represent the maximum value, right? Now, if you remember how to find the vertex of a parabola, then you can get the answer right away. Right? If you don't, you're like really stuck. Could you play off the multiple choice answers and just plug all these prices in one by one and just figure out which one gives you the most money? You could. It's kind of a campus way to do it, but you could always do that. Solve for x. You could either factor this, or you could push this through the quadratic formula, make a quadratic equation, okay? Or you could plug in these multiple choice answers one by one until it comes out to zero. There's three different ways to do that. Okay? This graph. So I gave you a formula in standard form. Again, you guys have different equations, so there's different versions. But uh, you could make an XY table and just plot a bunch of XY coordinates, and eventually the graph will naturally emerge anyway. Right? Or you could factor this, and in factored form, you can immediately get the x-intercepts and whip it off pretty fast. You could find a vertex, that could be helpful. You could use completing the square and put this in vertex form, right? So that could be helpful, right? So there's a lot of different ways to approach that. Right? But if all else fails, you could make an XY table and just start plotting points. Uh, Number five. Ooh, guys, what is I? I is the square root of what? Negative one. Now, if you know I is the square root of negative one, I bet you can figure out everything else from there. Okay. Uh, Number six. Again, you could factor you could guess a check factoring. You could push this through a quadratic equation. Right? That would definitely give you the correct answer. You could play off these multiple choice answers and check your factoring. Like if you did a factor method and say, okay, which one actually, if I FOIL it backwards, does it lead back to the original statement? There's different ways to do that. Okay. Uh, right, equation of the parabola in vertex form. Now, I showed you guys how to do this, well, also in the review yesterday. I mean, I reviewed all these, of course. Okay. This does involve completing the square if you want to uh, do it that way. Okay. Uh, if you get really, really stuck, okay, so could you play off every one of these multiple choice answers and maybe FOIL it out and see what leads back to the standard form version? Okay. You can do it that way too. Okay. You can pick random coordinates. So say, hey, what if I plug in something for x? What do I get for f of x? Okay, and then see which one matches one of those multiple choice things. Right? There's different ways to do it. Okay. Completing the square. Okay. So same thing. You could play off multiple choice, plug them in one by one, see what happens. Or maybe you know the procedure that again I reviewed yesterday for how to do that. So you would just know how to get even without multiple choice. Okay, but you have multiple choice, so either way you did. Okay. Oh hey, height is a function of time. You guys saw a ton of these. These kept coming back over and over in lots of different lessons in the module. Okay. So I gave you height as a function of time. Okay. I'm saying where's the ball hit the ground? H0. So again, you guys have different equations, but I'm giving you the quadratic formula right here. Quadratic formula. So just plug it in. Now, you'll probably get two answers, but one of those maybe doesn't make sense and one of them does and would also be a multiple choice answer. And then finally, the last question is inequalities. And I listed a few points here. Now, two of these are part of the solution set. Let's say they satisfy those both conditions, greater than one but less than another. Okay. And two of these points do not work for both of them. Okay. So only two of these points. So check off two boxes, just the two that work. And that's it. That's it. All right, so there's some hits that you guys are going to do pretty well.